Okay, GBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals work session for May 9th in 2023. We have decisions to make this evening, and I'll begin by reading the first one into the record. The first application is Robin Winegas at 182 Shore Drive, East Hampton, Shore Drive East, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-107-1-3. The size and location is 5,939 square feet at 182 Shore Drive East in Amagansett. The description is to allow the continued existence of a one-story addition, decking, an outdoor shower, 2 air conditioning units, construct a second-story balcony, 4-foot fence, new parking areas, and to reconstruct and alter the roof line on a parcel of land containing primary dunes, dune land, and tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, variances from 255-440, minimum wetland setbacks, 255-430, coastal setbacks, and 255-1110, Table 3 and 255-1172D, relative height of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. 1 and 2 is 30-foot variances are required to allow the one-story addition to remain 70 feet from wetlands and to construct a second-story balcony 70 feet from the wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required for all structures. 3 and 4 variances are required of 74 feet and 30 feet are required to allow the closest of the decking to remain 26 feet and 20 feet respectively from wetlands and the dune crest where 100-foot and 50-foot setbacks are required. 5, an 8.8-foot variance is required to allow decking to remain 6.2 feet from the southern side yard lot line where a 15-foot side yard setback is required. 6, a 42-foot variance is required to allow an outdoor shower to remain 58 feet from wetlands. 7 and 8, variances are of 4 feet and 47 feet are required to allow the closest of 2 AC units to remain 46 feet and 53 feet respectively from the dune crest and wetlands. 9, an approximate 8-foot variance is required to allow 1 AC unit to remain 2 foot from the southern lot line where a 10-foot setback is required. And 10 and 11, relative height pyramid variances are required to allow the reconstructed flat roof to extend approximately 17 feet and 2 feet beyond the relative height limitation along the southern and northern lot lines respectively. The zoning district is A residence, AE flood zone. The elevation is 10 and the secret class is type 2. This is in Member McGivern's application. Joan, you want to take this?
So the hearing was held on February 28th. The record was left open 4 weeks for the submission of actually the survey that you're presently looking at, which is dated March 6, 26 by Gary Benz, showing where the proposed IA system will be. The building plans are stamped received May 2nd, 2022 by Silverberg. It's in a harbor overlay district. Let's stop. They had commenced some outdoor work and were issued a stop work order on August 14th, 21. That was lifted to allow interior work to continue. They also subsequently tendered an opinion from the building inspector saying that the improvements that they're seeking do not pass the 50% threshold. So in fact, the septic is being offered as mitigation. That was an issue, an open issue at the hearing and an open issue in the TAM. Just Lori Wiltshire presented for the applicant, and also she was followed by Rick Whalen, who is the attorney on the matter. Lori stated that there was to be no change in the bedrooms, but the building coverage was coming down because they're tearing down an existing shed and putting in its place a little parking area. The survey shows that the building coverage was being reduced from 963 square feet to where the maximum is 1,100. Although the lot coverage is going up from 35.6% to 40%, it's still, or 1,752 square feet to 1,965 square feet. The allowable is 2,459. Laura Wiltshire presented some documentary evidence in the form of photos showing existing neighbors on the water side, on the Shore Road water side, houses having, I'm sorry, let me start that again. Having water, the Shore Road houses having waterside decks, like the new deck that applicant is seeking. And she also presented evidence of many neighbors having outdoor showers. However, this outdoor shower will have a dry well. And what else? She specifically pointed to Ferrato, which had a raised roof on the second floor, and the Hyman property, which had decks 60 feet from the wetlands and had a substantial pyramid variance. She noted that the existing house already violates the pyramid rule, and that the New York DEC said that no permit was necessary for the work to be done. Besides the IA system, as mitigation, they're offering to install leaders and gutters, remove the shed, which I mentioned, and revegetate as much as possible. It is a small property. And I sort of wrestled with this one because there are so many little variances. So I tried to think of this more holistically. And I think holistically, the property is going to be improved because of the mitigation. And the property isn't going to be changing that much, if that makes sense. So I'm inclined to grant the variances, although the number of them did bother me somewhat. But I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say.
Thank you. Ed, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, thank you, Joan. I think you're right when you said this it bothers us when you look at it, as for a great number of variances on a very sensitive parcel. However, the character of the neighborhood factors into this to a certain extent when we see so many other houses that have some similar, in similar situations. However, we're looking at this one individually as it goes. I thought that the mitigation offered is significant in the IA system. The IA system in a tight spot like that we see, and in that situation, I mean, this is a house that's right on that Peak Harbor. So we know that it's going to have some positive effect. And I thought that the other factors of there's going to be some revegetation, and the gutters and leaders, of course, there are none now, and that would help to direct water. They talked about the shower also having a basin put in to catch whatever was going to go on during the shower. What do we do about these when we have an application like this that's got so many requests, and yet when you look at them individually, as was pointed out in the hearing, they're all just a little bit beyond what they had been before, or just slightly different than anything else that's in the neighborhood. I struggle with it as well. I thought that I went through the list and said to myself that I had real problems with I thought that the second air conditioning unit could be moved. That one was so close to, that was number 8. I'm going to read it here. It's a 4-foot and 47-foot required. I thought that could be moved. And I thought that the fifth variance, which was, let me see what it was. The decking remained 6.2 from the southern property line. I thought that something could be done about that. I did not like the decking period that was rebuilt on the ocean side. So I was willing to split my approvals here and to not approve the decking that's on the Napeag side, which is on the east side of the property. And also to ask for the one air conditioning unit to be moved. I thought that the outside shower, I can live with, because we are going to get the catch basin there. You know, we're going to get a dry well to pick up whatever goes on there in terms of its usage. And that the pyramid one is the hardest one for me, because on these lots and everywhere, we're very particular about being careful what we allow for pyramid violations. On the other hand, it was pointed out at the hearing in previous decisions, it's been pointed out by both the planning board and others that there's almost nothing can be done on a lot this size that would not require some sort of approval. So where do we move with that? We allow approval for these move on each one of these? I'm going to stick with what I've just said, and I'm going to approve, I guess it's 8 of the variances, and I'm going to deny that deck, the 6.2-foot setback on the deck. The second air conditioning unit, I think, can be moved. And I'm going to go back and see where I'm at here.
So you're saying the deck from the southern,
The deck on the
Side,
water
the
line,
lot
On the water line, yeah.
and that is the deck that is being reduced
well,
2
they,
feet. In other words, they were saying that it was a deck there and she expanded
right,
it, but
Yeah.
they were going to cut it back to what it was.
So she would
Right.
cut it back. You would cut it
So-
back to what was pre-existing, but pre-existing had never been
That's correct.
approved to begin with. So she inherits a nonconformity. And I think, given the sensitivity of that spot, I'm not encouraged to improve that deck. So
See,
I'm
My problem with the deck is if you don't have the deck, you're just gonna have people tromping around in a sensitive area. So in a way, I thought of the deck as preventing further damage to sensitive ground underneath, but I see your point.
Yeah, I guess it's a question of us allowing to have a nonconformity extend towards the lake, and that was bothered me, towards the harbor, Napeag Harbor. So I made mine as confusing as possible, I realized, but it was a struggle to go back and forth, and I think that it was that air conditioning unit that could be moved. It was that deck and whatever my first one was there. I'm going to go back and look at my notes here.
so I'm clear, Ed, you're saying the 8.8 variance required to allow decking to remain 6.2 feet from the southern
So there's a door,
yard is the one you're going to deny?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's a door that's going out the back of that house.
Right.
What is the requirement there?
Well, they may be required to have a small platform. It'd be a good deal less
Step
than
down
what we
or
have now.
something.
Step down, yeah.
What about Terry?
Okay. So, well, I kind of struggled, still struggling with this, but the bottom line, a number of these, on the west side of the house, which I believe is where that makeshift wood walk was in the photos, and the existing deck and the second story deck, I believe a number of those were originally put in by the previous owners without permits also. And then in 1984, there were some building permits for the 155 square foot first floor addition, closing in the porch built by Walter Lageran in 1964, a 240 square foot second floor dormer going back to 1980, and the 480-foot second floor addition, going back to 1984. This applicant redid, I think, all of that. I'm okay with those variances. The ones I'm not okay with are also on the east side, that entire decking on the, it's 26 feet away from the wetlands and 20 feet away from the, no, 30 feet away rather, from the dune crest. I'm denying that in its entirety. And the shower, I believe at the hearing that Lori Wiltshire had said that it needs repair. My feeling on that, I'm denying that also in this location. If it does need repair, I believe that it's not the minimum variance required. It could be moved slightly more landward to some degree. The shed, I do not take as mitigation because the shed was supposed to have been removed a long time before that, so it doesn't really count as mitigation. And taking it out just makes it look like they're doing a lot, that they're reducing the lot coverage. But with the IA system that's going in, I do think that's a good mitigation that they've added to the project. And I am denying also the pyramid variances. I will approve the things in the front. The AC unit 2 feet away from the side lot line on the south side, I'm denying that also.
So what are you approving?
So you're approving
So,
the second-story balcony?
I'm denying, yes,
And,
on the front.
and the front
I'm
proposed deck?
denying number 9. I didn't number them like that. And the decking in the back, the decking that's facing that big harbor, the shower that's on the north side. It could be improved upon, the setback could be improved upon there. And the 2 foot from the side lot line on the AC unit.
So Teresa, I think I missed one. You're denying the decking on the decking closest to Nakpee Harbor, the pyramid, the AC, the shower.
The AC on the south side
Okay.
and the shower on the north side, since it needs repair, I believe, could be moved to a more conforming location.
I think Lori explained that the reason the shower was there is that all the piping for the plumbing is on that side of the house. But I see your point.
And
Okay.
yeah, all the things on the west side of the house, I'm okay with, including the wood walk, which I'm not sure was always there. But
Thank you. Denise?
Okay. Okay.
It'll be interesting.
Well, my first concern with the property and reviewing it is it's in an HPOD district. And it's 100% cleared. And just for the record, the purpose of HPOD is to maintain and improve surface water quality in harbors and creeks, and improve wildlife habitat, help prevent entry of stormwater runoff into town waters. And this property is like 100% cleared. There are some pluses to this and some minuses, so I'm just going to go through. It seems to just each variance. These are very substantial variances. I'm going to approve, obviously, keep the one-story addition. I'm going to deny construction of the second-story balcony. I'm also going to deny the variances for 74 and 30 feet to allow the closest of the decking to remain 26 and 20 feet from the wetlands and dune crest, where 100 is 100 foot and 50 are required. I'm going to deny that 8.8 foot variance to allow decking on that southern side to remain 6.4 feet. I agree with Member Berger about the outdoor shower. I think it can be relocated more landward, and what's being requested is not the minimum variance. I would deny the AC unit on the south side, and I would deny the pyramid variance. What have I left out?
So far, just a point of conversation.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of denials, but we haven't given reasons for them. So
Well, my main
perhaps we
reason,
should spend a little time doing that.
my main reason is, these are very substantial variances. Front deck, 74%, 60%, 77%. The house renovation, 60%. Dune crest, side yard setbacks of 77%. Outdoor showers, rear decks, I mean, they're really substantial and not the minimum. I do have a major problem that this is in an H-pod area and it's totally clear. And I don't think that's in keeping with the standards for variant. I don't think any of this is in keeping with standards for the variances from 255, 440. Minimum wetland setbacks, 255, 430, coastal setbacks, 255, 1110, and table 3, and 255, 1172D for relative height. The two decisions that Ms. Wiltshire referred to, one being Hayman, very, again, an unjustifiable comparable. They constructed a 145 square foot first floor addition and 125 square foot second floor addition to a legally existing house that was 540 square feet. This house is already on a 5,900 square foot lot. It's 1,760 square feet already. And the other one that was referred to, the Zwerko lot, is completely unjustifiable as a comparable because it's a 47,178 square foot lot and they raised the house to meet FEMA. Again, I don't think this is in keeping with the standards for a variance. These are not the minimum variances necessary. And being in a harbor, they're almost maxing out numbers if you really look at these coverage calculations. And I don't think it's in keeping with, I mean, with this number of variances, I don't know how we provide orderly growth.
I'll
And
just go back.
I'll add to that,
All
to
right.
the, member Savarese brought up Hayman and Zwerko. Ferrato also was another one that they said it was 288 feet greater on a 785-foot house. Those neighborhood surveys that they send in, I don't feel are a valid comparison anyway. And that was stated also by the planner, that they were not equal comparisons. The lots are different sizes and the amounts were different. This one is outstanding for the largeness of it. And the ones that I denied are the most significant variances. I wasn't crazy for some of the others either, but some of it was done by the previous owners, so I will accept that. But the variances are huge for that back decking. And an 8-foot, that's an 80% variance for the AC unit on the south side. I think that's large and that could probably be moved. And the pyramid, there's a pyramid already on it, I believe, and may not be a huge increase in the pyramid, but it is increasing the nonconformity in that already. So it's my rationale on it.
No, I'll just say that the two areas that I denied were similar to my board members, and that is that deck that faces the harbor that, is an extension. Yeah, it's pre-existing, but it was pre-existing in a non-legal fashion, and I don't think we should be encouraging that. And when you're out there, the sensitivity of that particular spot and where we're at, I thought that was one that jumps out at me, that I couldn't go that far with it. I thought the other air conditioning unit that I wanted to deny could be moved, and I think that moving it was not going to be a tremendous disadvantage. On the other hand, I think all of the other ones were significant. I think that they are a challenge, but I also thought that the mitigation of an IA system is something that we encourage very, very actively in sites like this. And I thought the IA system helped me to decide that although there were many aspects of what was going on here that I wasn't particularly happy with, I was willing to approve the rest because I think it wasn't terribly out of character with the neighborhood. Those two that I cited are the two that I was going to deny. Everything else I'm willing to approve.
Did anybody talk, regarding the mitigation? They had mentioned that they were going to re-veg as well, right?
They mentioned that there might be some
I
revegetation.
don't recall that. I don't recall revegetation.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at now. Maybe you might be right. Wait a
I
minute.
don't think so. I mean, no, that was another issue for me, I think.
No, they said re-veg with beach grass.
Yeah, re-veg would be best.
Over the
Yeah.
IA system, over the IA system.
And there's not a
Oh,
lot
yes,
of
yes,
area
yes.
they can do, but they're going to do some revegetation with beatgrass, gutters and leaders, and the IA system where they're
Yep,
primary.
I have it right here,
mitigation.
too.
Okay.
Applicant proposes to plant exposed areas with,
Well, I'm not denying the IA system.
no. But I am denying the second story, 5,000 square foot lot.
So in terms of what I see is there's two sections to this. There's part of it is a legalization of pre-existing nonconformities, and then there's requests for new. The nonconformities are referred to the sunroom. The balcony above that is a requested new. The back deck was a nonconformity, pre-existed, they expanded it, and they agreed to cut it back. I'm torn on the back deck. I'm torn on the back deck because I think Member McGivern gives a valid issue where, you know, it allows some use back there, but I'm torn on that. I agree with the fact that it's a nonconformity closer to the wetlands, which is also problematic. So I'm going to set that aside for now. But I agree mostly with the mitigation on this project. I also could agree that the outdoor shower and the AC units can be moved further. I think if they're doing this extent of renovation and additions, the piping in the wall is not a big ask to move.
No.
And same thing with the AC. So I'm with that. I looked at the pyramid because I was troubled with the pyramid, and if you do compare the pre-existing pyramid to the new, I think the difference is so slight. I can say that it's a minimal variance request. And there's a benefit to the owner that does outweigh the negative that to the town and the neighborhood, and the fact that they're increasing headroom up there. So I'm willing to approve that pyramid as much as I'm not a big pyramid guy. So for me, then it comes down to whether or not the deck stays. I think I'm going to agree that we should deny that. However, I think we're going to have to allow some type of steps and deck. I don't know if we try to identify that now, but otherwise they're going to have to come back to us for a variance or for another NRSP.
What if we said that they could come back to us with a modified deck, greatly reduced? And
no,
we'd be
I
open
think
to
that
it.
If you deny it, they can still do that.
I think we can say if they go with like a 4x4 landing and steps down to grade is fine or something like that.
But I don't see how
Why
we can
can't they
deny
just have the
that.
steps?
I don't see how you can deny that, but I want to avoid them having to come back for a modification to have to add steps down.
Okay, so you said there's a door, there is a door back there. Yeah.
So then we would be looking right now. Joan, where are you on that thought?
I'm fine with denying having them move the AC in the shower if everyone feels strongly about that. The decking, I'm still torn because they need something to walk out of the house and sit and steps down.
I think that if I'm okay with, that's a sizable deck. I'm okay with like a 4x4 landing and steps down to grade.
I could be okay with something slightly larger than that. Have they come with us with a proposal to
Or maybe
reduce that deck and let it be 8 foot wide and 4 foot deep, so there's room for something to either side as you come and go? It would have been in the right range. I don't know if we're here to design for them, but I certainly think had that been proposed, it would have been a lot easier to accept, because as Joan points out, you have to not only get out, but there has to be some disturbance. So what happens thereafter? The problem is that all of these lots come with them. They're all encumbered with the fact of their location, and the location on us to see to it that we do not continue to encourage nonconformities. And that one jumps out when you're there, particularly, and you think, well, that's fine that it was pre-existing, but it was pre-existing illegally. And I felt like we have to act on that, on the deck. But to follow up on the chair's point, yes, something has to be there. Something can be there.
But is it in our,
Yes, I know. It's not for us to
right?
design.
I mean, is it in our jurisdiction to
No, we're not here to design for them.
redesign a project? I don't feel
Well,
that.
Can
What?
we say the board is open to considering a greatly modified wood deck for them coming back to us for?
No,
I'm not.
I'm not okay with that. Like, you want
So
to
then-
put steps going down if there's a door. Where's
It's
the
a
door?
denial on the deck as a whole.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, once you deny the deck, it's off the application, so they would have to come back with another application.
Say that again, I hope.
Once you deny the deck, then it's gonna be off the application. So at that point, then they're gonna have to come back. I don't think there's any way we can leave it open for them to come back with a new design plan on that.
Right.
Unless you conditioned it on, the building department's or the planning department's approval or something like that, but that's still gonna be tricky because like you said, regardless, the size is gonna have to come back in front of you guys. So I don't know how you can do it.
Okay, so then-
On the
So regardless, it
survey,
has to come back.
on the survey, they have the deck and then steps going down. So
Mhm.
they can keep the steps going down and.
So far, let's sum this up. So far, we have a majority on,
So what I have, just to
We
help
have
you
a
out,
majority.
Roy, is you
Go ahead.
guys are gonna deny on a majority the AC to the south, the shower and the decking, and everything else is gonna be approved.
that's correct.
Mhm.
You on the AC on the. I'm okay. with
I'm
the one
not
on the wall.
okay with the second story balcony.
I understand, but the majority of the vote, like, yeah, I have for you, I have much
Yeah,
more that you
majority.
denied. But the majority that's gonna be approved in the application so far, based on the way the board has voted, will just be what's gonna be denied is the AC to the south, the shower and the decking.
Very good. Thank you.
And the shed will be gone.
Joan, are you denying the decking, or are you just gonna deny the AC in the shower?
I'll deny the decking. I mean, I agree it could be smaller. I just was concerned that they need an area to walk out onto.
Oh.
But they can come back.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Andrew Cohen at 161 Marine Boulevard, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-176-8-17. The size and location is 24,479 square feet at 161 Marine Boulevard, Beach Hampton, Block 1, lots 33 through 37, map number 1283, and Amagansett. The description is to modify a determination in order to allow a reduction and reorientation of the entry stairway and add grade beams, breakaway walls, a utility platform, and a raised beach walkway that terminates at grade with the remainder as a roll-up mat. Relief sought is a modification of a February 26, 2020 zoning board of appeals determination. The zoning district is B residence VE 17 and AE 10, and the secret class is type 2. And again, member McGivern, this is in your,
Yes, the hearing was held on March 28th. This is essentially a modification of a prior board decision. The property's already partially constructed. The survey we reviewed was January 12th, 2023 by Saskis, and the building plans were by Gordon Kahn Associates, which are dated September 27th, 2022. And the modified stairway by Gordon Kahn Associates also is dated January 12th, 23, SK01-02. So first, the reduction and reorientation of the staircase is minor in nature. I visited it and it seems to fit in, and they reduced the square footage from 249 square feet to 115 square feet. The breakaway walls, the planning department had no objection to, as the majority of the property is in a VE zone. The utility platform, they moved it to the east side of the first floor. Again, the planning department had no objection because FEMA requires that utility be, placed as far away from water as possible. Oh, I skipped over this. Britton Bistrian presented for the applicant. And the beach access, this one I struggled with a little bit. Again, I'd like to hear what other people have to say. The planning department said that the walkway could be reoriented to the south side, which would make it more consistent with the 2020 determination. And that we could make as a condition that the planning department approve a reconfigured walkway that is less of a bridge walkway and more of a roll-up walkway. What else? Then they slightly reduced the storage space and gravel driveway. So overall, there's 200 square feet less clearing. So with the exception of the beach access, I would approve all the other requests and make beach access, reconfiguration of beach access conditioned on approval by the planning department to avoid their having to renotice and rehear.
now the issue on the beach access, just go through quickly, is the roll-up?
No, they wanted a bridge walkway out of the middle of the house.
Correct.
Anyway. They wanted it to bridge out, and if I understood Morgan Slater's point, he said if it was placed more to the south side, the grade of the property would allow for less of a bridge, I guess. But I'm still a little fuzzy on that.
The issue was just
I thought,
the roll-up versus the walkway.
yeah, what I have down as
But you look at what,
they were
look-
eliminating a stairway
bridge was an
on the
issue.
I don't
south,
think so either. But could be wrong.
on
I think
SK01. Can you show us SK01, Tyler?
parallel to the back of the house, wasn't it?
It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the
And they're
north, that's the
eliminating-
north side.
What?
This is the north side.
that's the
south-
north side.
And the south side is, they went from stairs to the bridge.
The stairs to the
This is what
bridge,
the ZBA
and they're
originally
eliminating
approved.
that.
This is what they're asking for. Originally, it was like a set of stairs down,
Right,
and then they had that, now they have that.
and now there'll be a direct
There's a
walk
little
out, no
landing.
stairs.
There's a
Right,
landing.
right.
Right.
Okay. And a 27-foot catwalk. Is that west? Is that west where that is?
It's on like the west side of the,
Okay.
of the south side.
So-
It's the south side of the house, so the
Right,
west
south
side
house,
of the
west,
south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Removal of that south stair reduces the walkway length to terminate at grade with the remainder as a rollout.
So they don't have to go up 5 feet and
Right.
down 5 feet.
Okay.
That's, yeah. So, okay.
Okay, Ed?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I had no problem with this application on any of the points. I thought that it was a reasonable ask. I thought that they came in, the modification was a positive, sort of in all ways. They raised platform, went from the deck to a high point and then immediate to a roll up. I thought that the raised bridge that went from one to another was actually a positive. I'd rather see that than seeing the steps coming down. I thought it allowed for passage underneath for wildlife. I thought that was a positive. I thought the others were minor asked in some ways, they reduced coverage. They had breakaway walls. None of this gave me a pause. I thought that this was a well presented and an easy one for me to approve. So I'm willing to approve this application.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much to add. They were talking about one additional beam that was going to be put in, but it was going to be set in from the edges of the breakaway walls. And also so the clearing went down, as Member McGivern said, and that their re-veg is increasing from 4,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. So that's all good. I too have no problem with any of the modifications on this.
Thank you.
I agree with everyone. I won't repeat, but I do think there's less square footage and less clearing. I am in favor of the roll-up mat in place of the walkway. Adding the utility platform, it's a FEMA requirement. I think overall the modifications are minor. North entry stair is going from 259 square feet to 115 square feet. South entry stair reduced from 225 square feet to 108. And the clearing is being reduced from 6,673 square feet to 6,482. So I do believe this is in keeping with the code, and I approve this application.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with the board. My concern is that the roll-up mat stays a roll-up mat, doesn't increase, is not able to increase in the future to like a raised walkway or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a way that we can condition that's the limitation of our approval. It is the ask. I don't know if it's appropriate to request that, but.
And we also brought up, actually, you brought up the erosion control fencing.
Yeah, but that's part of the construction, right? I think.
Yeah, no. okay.
Yeah, I think,
I'm just
yeah,
saying
you're
You
right.
brought it up about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Maybe the covenant that they won't extend the further proposed walkway. Raised walkway.
Oh, small.
Right. We are granting approval for this survey and a roll-up mat. Hope, what do you think about that? I mean, what do we,
We conditioned a recent application just previously on them maintaining the roll-up mat for that portion of where it is. If I'm reading this right, most of it's a structure, right? And then it's just the end part is the roll-up. So I think that we can condition on that last part remaining, a roll-up. I don't think that the applicant's going to,
right, I would agree.
jump up and down about that.
But Joan, are you okay
Yeah,
with?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I hadn't thought about Ed's reasoning. I agree with him.
Okay, then we're unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Do we know where the additional re-veg is going, or is it just?
That was the day I
I'd have to compare the surveys.
Yeah. I don't see it.
Right, okay, let's see. Next. We have Twinkle Property LLC at 11 Old School House Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-55-7-3.14. Size and location is 97,325 square feet at 11 Old School House Lane, Northwest Estates Subdivision, Lot 14, map filed 4798 in East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-55-7-3.14. The description is to construct a 4,833 square foot residence that exceeds the maximum allowable height. The relief was sought as a variance pursuant to 255-1110 of the East Hampton Town Code to construct a residence 34.8 feet in height where 32 feet is the maximum allowed. The zoning district is A5 residence and Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. This is in my domain, so I'll leave this off. This property is located at 11 Schoolhouse Lane in East Hampton. It's part of a subdivision. It's a sizable lot. It's a flag lot that it goes back, and around and behind the lot is a reserve, scenic reserve area. It's an empty lot. This is to me this is not a difficult decision for me to make. This is a denial straight out for me. I think that due to the fact that this is an empty lot, the architect is coming to us because the empty lot, at the beginning of the lot, it's a flag lot. As it opens up, there's a flat area of the property and then the grade goes down. And because of the grade goes down, he's requesting a height in the back variance in the back of the house. He maintains that, and from the front of the house, you're not going to see it from the road. And because there's a reserve in the back, nobody's gonna see it from the reserve. However, due to the fact that this is a newly developed piece of property, empty lot, I think it's important from a precedent standpoint not to allow, zoning is there for a reason. And we design within zonings, especially when we're given a situation like that. It would set a bad precedent, in my opinion, to allow a height increase on a lot that recedes when there are many projects in the town that are designing within grade variances. And so I think it would be a negative precedent to allow. There were also about 5 residents, 5 comments that also were against the application for various reasons. One of the most compelling reasons was the fact that there is a scenic reserve, and from the scenic reserve, you can't argue that you're not going to see it from a scenic reserve. It's a scenic reserve. I thought that was a compelling argument from one of the neighbors. So with that, I'll quickly go through the variance standards guide. Let me just pull them up. And does the benefit to the applicant from the grant of the area variance outweigh any detriment which grant of the variance will cause the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or the town as a whole? And I say it does not. I think that, that based on precedent and clear zoning requirements that is given by the town and is to be complied with. Is the area variance to be granted the minimum variance necessary and adequate to alleviate the difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance, while at the same time preserving and protecting the character of the neighborhood and the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood? It is not the minimum. The house can be designed, it is adequate room on the property and can be designed to within the zoning volume, if you will. Has the applicant shown that the benefit accruing to him from grant of requested variance outweighs any harm which will be caused to the neighborhood or the town, and that the variance requested is the minimum variance needed to alleviate his difficulty while safeguarding the character of the neighborhood and general welfare of the town. I don't find there to be any difficulty here. This is an empty lot. I think that the benefit to the applicant, there is no benefit to the applicant. I think that there's alternate designs to do that. Will the grant of the variance cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, or will it create a detriment to nearby properties? I think it does. It is an undesirable change of the character of the neighborhood. There is a reason why there are height variances, pyramid variances, zoning setbacks and whatnot. And I think that's imperative to design within that. And the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. The answer to that is yes. Is the requested area variance substantial? I think that a height variance is considered a substantial, especially when it can be designed to be within the zoning requirements of the lot. Will the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood? And as we can see by the public comments, and as well, I think it's imperative to stay within height variance on this and design within that. Is a difficulty of the applicant to request an area variance self-created? Yes, I think that this can be avoided by designing a house within zoning parameters. Who's next? You want to go?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm in agreement with the chair on this because I think that it is primarily, as was just pointed out, a self-created problem. It's a 2.8-foot height variance, which is significant on its own. The argument that no one can see it from the road is not really a factor here. We still have to defend the code as it's written. I think that the comment that's been made already by the chair that this is there's an architectural answer to this problem, and this is a house begun. Well, it hasn't been built yet, so we're starting from scratch. So it's a blank piece of paper, so we can play with that. I did ask the question at the hearing about whether or not it was going to affect living space. Why couldn't it be changed? And the feeling was that it would, because if they brought down the side walls, I guess they'd lose some headroom. But that's not the only solution possible. Architects can be very creative in these ways, and we can certainly see that. I know that I've noted here that on A10 of the building drawings, it shows that roof pitch quite obviously, and we have a drawing up now, or a section that shows you where it's projecting beyond. A modification of the roof line will allow for the same square area. So as was pointed out, this is something that could have been solved without coming to us, and I don't think that we should be looking at it from that way. There were a couple of other factors in this. The fact that it was backed up into a reserve area and it will affect the other property owners was effectively portrayed by one or two of the people who got the chance to speak that night. I think that the letters we got were effective and to the point. I think that it was important for us to respect that and respect the fact that the building code allowed for their protection in this particular. I think was a strong community response to the negative. I think, as was stated by the chair, this was not a difficult one for me, primarily because we're not dealing with an existing building in a spot that accommodations couldn't be made or changes made. We just got done with one where they have no room to do anything, and we have to ask ourselves what happens in these tight spots. This is not one of them. You're starting from scratch, come up with an architectural answer, and there won't be a need for a variance. So I'm denying it as well.
Thank you. Denise?
I agree. I'm not an architect, but one would think on a vacant piece of land as a design remedy should have been applied here rather than an increase in height. I think this will impact on the community. There were other alternatives that were not explored. The granting of this would set a precedent, and others would look to exceed the height restrictions. So this application is not in keeping with the harmony of the neighborhood. and it's not in compliance with 25511 of the town code, which does not allow residences over 32 feet. So I'm denying this application.
Thank you. Terry?
Okay, I too am going to deny this application. I won't repeat everything, but the public comment did weigh strongly on this. I think it's more important to have the view from the scenic easement and the reserve area. Clearly, this whole subdivision was designed to maximize the visual effect of the reserve area and the scenic easements in this to maximize the enjoyment for all the homeowners there. And one of the public members, I missed the name on it. I know we had a Joel Lefkowitz and Seth Lowe who made a very compelling argument about it. And that, there are 8 or 9 houses already built in this and not one needed a variance. And I think it's very important that they have that scenic vista as it was designed to be. And so I too, I'm denying this application. I think it can be redesigned architecturally to eliminate any variance.
Thank you. Counselor, we okay on that? Oh, Joan.
No worries. I'm not going to repeat everything everybody's already so nicely and articulately said. The one thing I do agree that there must be an architectural solution. And what mystified me was the space labeled attic. It seemed like if they lost that attic space, they wouldn't have the problem. So I'm in agreement with everybody else.
Thank
And
you.
I think the members of the public who spoke were Martorella and Goldberg, Lowe, and Lefkowitz.
Yeah.
And then one other person, I think, the professor was the engineer. Anyway, it's in the record.
Thank you. All right, next. We have Bill Harron at 46 Settlers Landing Lane in East Hampton. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-55-8-20. Size and location is 20,020 square feet at 46 Settlers Landing Lane in Settlers Landing, Section 1, Lot 12, map number 4656 in East Hampton. The description is an appeal of the building inspector's determination dated January 24th, 2022 concerning 255-11-67A3 of the town code. The relief sought is an appeal of the building inspector's dated January 24, 2022 concerning 255-11-67A3 of the town code. The appellant seeks to challenge the building inspector's determination that the residence as constructed does not comply with 255-11-67A3. The appellant contests that every room is readily accessible by passage through the interior of the residence through a common entrance. The zoning district is B residence. The Zone X flood zone and the secret class is type 2. And again, this is in my district. So I'm going to, this is an interesting one. How you have that? Thank you for putting the floor plan up. This is an interesting application. What we have is an approved building permit application that was submitted and built. Yet the applicant received the permit and built the house as submitted to the town and built to the plan. When they came to the final inspections, the building inspector denied the C of O request due to the fact that the access to the new addition was coming through a garage. Originally, so the interesting part of this, and I'm going to go through the agents for what he calls errors in the building inspector's determination. Interesting part of this application is the fact that one of those arguments is the garage is a finished, they're saying it's a finished space. It's a conditioned space, it's got furniture in it. And that's it's an interesting part of this application. So I'm going to try to go through it. He was arguing that East Hampton Town Code. I'm going to spend a little bit of time going through the building inspector's determination. And the building inspector, I think there was a conflict on the date. Anyway, the building inspector's determination is February 21st, 2023. And she goes, "Dear Mr. Crouch, this is a response to your email. Regards to the above reference, attached garage to a residence of the above property. After review of the East Hampton zoning code and the New York State Building Code section below. New York State Residence Code means of egress. Dwellings shall be provided with a means of egress in accordance with this section. This means of egress shall provide a continuous and unobstructed path of vertical and horizontal egress travel from all portions of the dwelling and required egress door without requiring travel through a garage. The required egress door shall open directly into the public way or to a yard or court that opens to a public." And then she addresses the East Hampton Town Code 255-120, floor area habitable or livable, the area of square foot of all four levels of any dwelling unit measured from the inside of the wall walls. In calculating this figure, all porches, patios, garages, breezeways, terraces, and other attached and detached accessory buildings or structures shall be excluded. And then the garage, private, an accessory building used for the storage of motor vehicles and all types of farm machinery and conveyances owned and regularly used by or on behalf of the owner or tenant of the lot on which it is erected or only for the purpose accessory of permitted use of the lot. In 255-1120, accessory buildings, private garage. A private garage may be constructed as a structural part of a main building, provided that when so constructed, the garage walls shall be regarded as the walls of the main building in applying the front, rear, and side yard regulations of this chapter. That's clear. Additional regulations, there shall be at least one common entrance on the ground floor through which every room other than a utility room shall be readily accessible by passage through the interior of the residence. This subsection shall not apply to affordable accessory apartment approved pursuant to this chapter. This is the one part that is in contention here, and we want to spend a little bit of time on that. Is my interpretation per review, both New York State and East Hampton zoning code sections above, the garage is not a part of the residence, whether attached or detached. It is considered an accessory structure to the dwelling, as it also eliminated from the gross floor area for a living space. Per this conclusion, you cannot access into an additional living space constructed from the main dwelling if you are accessing through the garage. The applicant lists 4 errors with this decision. The first one is we're citing the state code. The state code says there shall be a means of egress. I agree with him in the sense that, and I don't think, and even Ann's testimony, she wasn't contesting that there was not a means of egress met here. So from the state code, it does meet that requirement. The new addition does by the 2 double doors that are leading out from this. Let me move on from there. The second error is 255-11-7. He's saying is the garage is conditioned space. This does not determine living space. And I don't understand what he's getting at here. He's saying the garage is living space. You can't A garage is not a living space. A garage is a garage is a garage. You can't have a living space and then have a car inside a living space. It is not intended for that. The building inspector, when she testified the first time they were at the residence, they saw a living space. And so it didn't dawn on them that they were exiting through a garage. When they came back to do a final, is when they realized that because there was a car inside that space.
Exactly.
And that's what gave them pause and to take a look at this.
But didn't they also, if I recall, they finished the garage without getting proper permits and they added a bedroom,
Added a bathroom.
a bathroom, I'm sorry.
Powder room.
I'm sorry, a powder room.
That's correct.
Excuse me, so that wasn't a
Well,
part of the original permit,
No,
right?
but then there was an attempt to try to legalize the
Yes,
area of the
yes.
garage, but they wouldn't give on the garage doors because they still wanted to pull a car in,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So, and again, this goes back to the crux of the matter here, I think is the crux of the matter.
Well, yeah, one of the, oh, good.
Let him finish.
Thirdly, he says the garage is not a dwelling. He's trying to argue the accessory building of the code. He's saying it's not literal in the code. He does at some point cite two case study laws. One is that you have to take the literal interpretation of the law as it is written. And the second one, I don't remember the names of the case laws, but it had to do with the fact that if there is an interpretation, it should go to the homeowner. I think that was the intent of it. Hope if I'm wrong interpreting that, please point it out.
No,
You're
no,
great. You're on board.
yeah.
Yeah,
If there's an
Jay versus
ambiguity, you
Clarkstown.
strictly construe it against
That's
the
correct.
town.
And that was Bonnie versus ZBA.
Okay,
the one-
thank you.
The second one, yeah.
So he's saying that it's not it's 1,200 square foot garage. Now, this is a house, this original part of the house, the entire 1,200 square foot bottom of this the structure is garage. The upper second floor of that is the living space. So it's a 1,200, it's an accessory building. He was saying that it's not clear in the code that accessory building cannot exceed 20 feet, 600 feet. So you're saying there's ambiguity in the code in that case. The building inspector stood up and said that forever there was interpreted by the town that attached accessory structure can be larger than 600 square feet if it's attached. The requirement is that the walls meet the primary building setback. And that's from my experience. That's always been an interpretation too in my trade. So, fourthly, and I didn't understand his reasoning here too. The garage is not part of the GFA.
Right.
Well, the building inspector then said that they do not include it as part of the GFA.
That's correct.
As a garage.
It's not
but,
habitable living
not
space.
living
He was making counter arguments back
Right.
one way and another.
Right.
Yeah.
Came down to if the garage was converted to living space, to habitable space,
Mhm.
this problem would go away. It wouldn't be a
Right.
problem because it would then satisfy the town of East Hampton's code. They attempted to do this. For me, this comes down to, and this was discussed at the hearing by Ann, that in order to access through a garage, it has to have a corridor, a fire corridor, a 3/4 hour rated corridor to pass through it. You can't argue that you're passing through living space and a garage at the same time. A garage is a garage is a garage. You cannot park a garage. There's a reason for the fire,
Right.
the firewall, and as a point of passage through a garage. And in this application, you can't, I think that is the higher standard than the two case studies that he pointed out. The literal interpretation of the code and any ambiguity going to the landowner. This is a life safety issue in the New York State Building Code, Fire Code. It's a life safety issue in the town of East Hampton. Life safety overrules any interpretation of the code, in my opinion. I don't think it would be prudent of us to not uphold the building inspector's determination on this property. That's my statement. Ed, you want to go?
Sure. And I think a lot of the discussion we heard that night of the hearing was a semantic one. We went back and forth trying to define a garage, a living space, what's finished, what's not finished, what's connected, what's not connected. Part of the point of the code is to see to it that this couldn't be constructed and become two separate residences. If they are one residence, then they have to have some contiguous ability to contact one another. After a lot of discussion back and forth about the living space, and the chair has done a good job of explaining that to us of what happened that night, it came down to exactly asking, how is the space used? It didn't matter if there's sheetrock. There was mention that there was a big screen TV on a wall and furniture can be put around and there's a powder room. That's all well and good. But the fact is someone could be walking into a running car, coming open doors in their pajamas. A car could be running. You could have fumes. If this is the part of a living space, then it had to be separate from the passage through. It had to be separate from an area that has inherent dangers. It could be a shop, it could be anything, but it has inherent dangers. There was an awful lot that went on back and forth through that. And I just wanted to make a couple of points. The definition of the garage as a living space, and pointed out that you could attach a garage as long as it met setbacks and make it as large as you want. If you're a collector, you might have 7 or 8 cars you want to put in there. We've seen this situation. That would still be a garage, and it would not be, because it's attached to the main dwelling, it'd be fine. You could not pass through it. Confusing here is the fact that there was a discussion of egress. Yeah, obviously there's egress in both places, and you're protected coming from above the garage because that is an enclosed space with 2 doors, and you can get yourself out in case of emergency. Similarly, in the addition, you could do the same. But after all that discussion back and forth, there were 2 things that bothered me. There was no ambiguity for me about defining the garage. One is what was already pointed out by the chair, and that is that an effort, I made a note here that they were making, I don't know if they had made it, they were making a legal effort and to legalize the garage as indoor space, which would require them to abandon the garage doors and then properly insulate and then close that space. I don't know where that's going, but if that was the case, that could have certainly made this whole problem go away for them. It didn't. And there was the idea that there was an approved building permit that was floated out as part of it. Said, why was an approved building permit for this if it wasn't going to be used in this fashion? I can't answer that question, but I can say that if we're going to look at the code as was defined by the chair, I think we see pretty clearly that we're asking people to pass through a dangerous area within, that separates 2 living spaces. So I'm in defense of Ann's position, and Glennon's position on this. I think that it's not a tough one. It's because it's obviously it's in the code for a reason and it's there. But what's interesting is that this could all go away if they just decided to abandon the garage aspect. So that's their problem and not ours right now. But for me, I think that it's not a very tough one after we got through the whole discussion and went back and forth about how are we defining the space and whether or not it was, an accessory structure. I'm denying the application for all these reasons.
Well, it's not an application, it's
Yeah, an
building
application.
inspector's determination. You're upholding the building inspector's determination.
I'm upholding the building.
Okay, Joan, I'm going to go to you next.
I admire the way you parsed it, and the bottom line, a garage is a garage. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So I'd be willing to uphold Ann Glennon's interpretation, and I agree with Ed. It's really their problem. I don't want to repeat what everyone's already said.
I agree with everything. As Ed said, they can abandon the garage aspect of it. This really is a problem they've kind of created for themselves. The safety issue is there. There could be other uses, activities in the garage, could be detrimental to people. I think 255, 120 really made me realize Ann's interpretation, because it clearly, when you read it, they're not counted, garages are not counted as livable space. So I am in agreement, and I'm upholding the building inspector's interpretation.
Okay, Terry?
Okay, I too am upholding the building inspector's determination. I was looking, a big job of convincing me. I mean, it is a garage. They did get a C of O for a 1,200-foot garage, but that still doesn't make it, as everyone else has said, habitable living space. And looking at the photos that were provided by the appellant, photo 4, I mean, it clearly shows that you have to go across a garage to get to the door, to get to the stairs, to get to the upstairs on the main part of the residence. So I think, this was convincing. They did see that there were issues with the garage, I guess, it's as far as a powder room. And I believe what they had said was that they originally had a different attorney prior to Thomas Crouch. And I believe somewhere in that documentation, it said that they started to pursue having it made habitable living space and legalize it. But again, they came up against that they would have to remove the garage doors. And I guess they just decided they didn't want to do that. But, clearly the building inspector, the definitions, the floor area, that it's habitable, the garage, 255, 1120, and 255, 1167, I am upholding the building inspector's determination for that also.
Thank you. And I forgot to address the aspect that there was an approved building permit on these plans. Whether or not there was, even though there was approved plans, it is still incumbent on the homeowner to meet all applicable codes.
To get a CO.
And the fire safety code is one of the highest parts of the code. And so I just want to say that it's still incumbent on the homeowner to meet all applicable codes. All right. You good, counsel?
Got it.
You all have the same notes.
Everybody else?
We want to repeat the same things.
Next, we have Janice Canfield at 2 Wooded Oak Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-140-1-8. Size and location is 23,635 square feet, 2 Wooded Oak Lane in Montauk Manor, lot number 3, block 18, lots 6 through 15, map number 265 in East Hampton. The description is to allow an existing basement window, well, and basement entrance to remain within scenic easement setbacks. Relief to sought is 2 variances of 4.8 feet and 4.3 feet from 255-11. 74A of the town code are required to allow the basement entry to remain 5.2 feet and window well to remain 5.7 feet from the scenic easement, where 10-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone is secret class 2. And once again, this is in my district, so I'll move forward. This is a lot of wooded oak. My understanding, and Tyler, these are the part of the urban renewal maps, and that when they combine these urban renewal act, the intent was to make an easement from the road to the lot being developed. Yeah. And that is one of the cases here. There's an easement that's next to the road. Now, I want to point out that the homeowner did a very good job in delineating the easement from landscaping to the easement. However, the issue on this property is that there was a building permit. The building plans showed the area well and the stairs entry on there, but the survey did not depict it, and there was a building permit that was obtained from that. I am not troubled by this application. I think that due to the fact that the window wells and the entry are at grade, they don't rise above except for, I think, a railing on the window well. I think that does not detract from the fact that there is a scenic easement. I think there's some uniqueness in this application to that effect, and alone that it was, in this case, it's a simple error on both parts. I'm not bothered. I'm willing to approve this. There was conversation during the hearing of whether or not, and it was from the vice chair, especially whether or not we would be affecting or affecting use of the scenic easement, and whether or not that should be barricaded, so by a fence or whatnot. Minimum of that would be a fence that just is in the general location of that nonconformity. But I'm willing to approve it. I can hope we can have a discussion about whether the fence or not, but I'm willing to approve it.
Sure. I agree. I mean, the survey did not depict the window well or the basement entry on the west side, but the building plans that every permit was issued on, they did accurately depict the window well, and everything was built with the approval they were given to do so. I think that the applicant acted in good faith. I do agree that though, I mean, they submitted and approved, everything was built in compliance with the approved building plans. And it was an error, but I don't think it's an error that's going to, will the grant of the variance cause an undesirable change in the character? No, I don't feel it will. Whether the area variance is substantial? No. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? No. Whether the difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance was self-created? No, because I think, you know, when the plans were submitted and they were approved, it's not like the applicant went and did something else. I do agree with the request in the TAM, though, that there should be such fencing, in their words, along the easement line in order to delineate the yard space from the easement and prevent any incidental clearing of the easement in the future. These decisions do run with the land, and I just think I'm going to approve this application, but I think that condition of approval is appropriate in this situation.
Thank you. Barry?
Well, bottom line, ultimately, I agree with it. I'm a little disturbed about it, though, because there was a statement, well, it's in the TAM, that there were 3 building permits. The 71047, which was to build the house, which is the one that had the window well and the stairs on the plans, but not on the survey. And then a subsequent building permit for a pool. And in that one, then the survey did have the window well. So again, you know, there's 3 building permits issued around the same period of time, in May of 2021. So it is bothersome to me that this happened like that. However, I think there'd be more detriment to say that they have to remove the window well. I'm not sure what they would do about the egress stairs. That might be more of an issue. So I am in agreement to allow the window well and the stairs to remain. And I also agree that, yes, we should have some kind of fencing along that. I don't know, it was with split rail brought up. I don't know that I would prefer something more solid, some kind of, you know, maybe 1x1 or 2x2 type metal fencing, something that would keep somebody from climbing through. a split rail fence would allow that to happen. So, but I am in agreement to approve this, in this instance.
But you're
the,
not,
Window well and.
just to clarify, you're not suggesting that multiple building permits should be punitive to the land homeowner? Because it's often the
Well, I
case
think it
where they
adds
do,
to
they do,
confusion.
like oftentimes a pool permit would be applied by the pool contractor.
Yeah.
Not the homeowner. So I don't think it should be.
Well, I'm not trying to
perceived
punish
as
the
punitive.
homeowner. It's just the,
But I'm
it's
just saying. that
disturbing
often
to me
happens.
that,
Yeah, okay, thanks.
that it happens.
All right, that's these. Ed, you
Yeah.
want to go?
Yeah. So I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. I think that the applicant followed the approved building plans. That's sort of a bottom line in this. He seemed to do what he had to do. He saw what he had to do and he did it, and it worked for them. And the survey didn't show the window well and all, and that's unfortunate, but that added to some confusion. I do think what was important to me were the photos that were taken by the chair at the time that showed that delineation between the easement and the property. It showed clearly that there hadn't been abuse, that he seemed to have been a good steward. I mean, it was cleared up into that spot. But, we go on to these places and we see the easement has been used for storing trash and lumber and everything else. There was nothing like that. This looked like they showed the proper respect. They were good stewards of the parcel that they had. About the fence, I brought it up at the hearing, or maybe I seconded at the hearing, but the thing is that I don't see a need for much of a fence more than just in the area of the well and the staircase. I mean, something that would keep people from not so much tumbling in, but for me, to keep them from taking wide turns, carrying things, making that so you wind up progressively working your way into the easement. So they have less room to get around. It's a narrow spot. But for me, some minimal fence in the area going just a few feet beyond either of these would be fine. I also think that the look of it, I did not visit the site, but the look of it is that it looks pretty natural the way it's set. So fences can be, as was brought up in another hearing we're going to have later, there can be an issue about a visual component as well. So for me, I'm not looking for any more than the minimum type fence just to keep people.
Like a split rail or something.
A split rail for just a few feet beyond each of these, it would be fine with me if they want to design something. But to me, that's all I was bringing up, was just let's stay out of the easement because of this mistake that was made. But I don't see in any way it's the fault of the applicant. So I'm very willing to approve this.
Thank you. Joan?
I agree with everything that was said. I'm willing to approve it, and I agree with Ed. Some modest fence just in the area of the variance would be sufficient. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, we have.
I'm sorry, Roy. Just for the condition, I know that I'm gonna add the fencing. Did you guys want it to go, like we said, a little bit beyond the improvements? Are we thinking 3 feet beyond the improvements? It's like, what is a little bit beyond the improvements?
Well, Tyler, can you measure that out for us from the stairs to the end of the window?
So you want to just measure this whole length? You wanted me to measure 5 feet beyond it?
No, just the length,
No,
and then we
just
can
the
add
length.
The length in total? Around 37 feet
Okay.
approximately? From edge
And
to
that's
edge?
the window well.
So 3 feet either side is fine?
What?
You're saying 3 feet either side?
I don't even know if it needs that much.
Right.
Just enough
37,
to
maybe
block
40
it.
feet?
Nobody's going to climb
Let's
out
make
the
it even.
window well if
Let's
they
make it
come
even.
up the
40-foot
stairs.
fence centered on the.
Just a teenager.
Okay, so 40-foot fence centered on the improvements.
Yep.
Got it.
Right. We okay, council?
Yep.
Thank you. Next, we have Lori Shimla at 460 Further Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk tax number 300-190-1 is 7.3. Size and location is 84,002 square feet at 460 Further Lane in Amagansett. The description is to construct an 883 square foot first floor addition to an existing residence without interior access through a common entrance with the existing residence. The relief sought is one variance from 255-1167A3 of the town code is required to allow there to be no interior access to the proposed addition from a common entrance within the existing residence and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A2 residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And member McGivern, this is in yours.
Yes, so they presented on March 28th. The survey they referred to was by Saskis, dated July 25th, 2022. Andy Hammer presented for the applicant, and the applicant also had Alex, I'm not going to say his name right, but Tooley, or present. Was it Tool?
Cruelly, is it Cruelly?
From the architect, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
architect, yeah.
The thing that struck me the most is that the property was, and the building plans were approved in 2006, 2007, and they issued a CO in 2010, already approving 3 wings of this house where the only way to access the other wing is to go through the basement. So they're already non-conforming as to section 255-11-67A3. And as was noted in the TAM, the exceptions to this are very rare. They found 4 determinations that were not exactly on point, but I think the main thing is that the main purpose of this section is to keep a single family house functioning as a single family house and prevent multifamily housing. So the access through the basement here and for this proposed addition is identical to the wings of the rest of the house. And the architect pointed out that all the wings have glass doors for egress on the ground floor. So in terms of a safety issue, there's a way out. If you needed to get out in a hurry due to a fire or something. And it's not, the way the house is built, it functions as a single family house with sort of exterior and interior and outdoor eating spaces and a kitchen in one place and living space in another. So I'm inclined to approve this application, despite the fact that it's a very rare that the exception be granted. I note that because a CO was issued in 2010 for the 3 wings having this point of access through the basement, they're simply adding a 4th wing to do that. I know they are building from scratch and could do something a little differently, but I think the design works here. And the architect was persuasive to me anyway. So I'm inclined to approve it.
Thank you. Terry, you want to go?
Yeah, I hear Joan on that. However, I'm in disagreement. In 2010, it was still legal for them to do what they did do with access to the existing basement. In 2017, 2016, the end of 2017, there were code changes that were made, which basically eliminated the allowance of expanding basements beyond the walls of the first story of a premises, to eliminate that space below grade, to stop a problem elsewhere. Maybe it wasn't a problem here, but this type of thing from occurring. So the adding Now it's a nonconformity. And the way I view it, this is increasing the nonconformity. And because of the code change to increase, to disallow the increase of a property disproportionate to lot sizes and limiting the basement space and making it more appropriate, not allowing for this kind of sprawl to occur. So I am going to deny this application. I think it doesn't meet it. It's against the code that was created in 2017 to eliminate similar type situations. And as far as the other ones that had been previously approved, they're nothing like this at all. They're minor applications, much smaller. And I think they don't compare to the size and scope of this, and just the basement is illegal to be put in, and I'm not going to approve extending a nonconformity on it. So I'm denying this application.
Hey, thank you. Denise?
Okay. This was another long time coming. Okay, so I think the purpose, which has already been stated, of 255-11-67 is to prevent a single-family house from becoming a multiple-family residence. The existing residence is, pre-existing, non-conforming. There should have been, I feel there should have been more thought to constructing a conforming addition to this residence. And due to the constraints on the property, granting a variance due to architectural reasoning, which appeared to be a lot of the discussion, everything was built in terms of architecture, is really not in keeping with the code. I believe the benefits sought can be achieved by another method. For instance, you could construct an addition adjacent to one of the existing wings, which would allow for interior access to other portions of the residence. The proposed addition does not really share a connection with the second story and is, as Terry stated, only connected through the rest of the residence through the basement and a crawl space. The 3 existing wings of this residence do share a physical connection with the second story. So I don't think this is in keeping with 255-11-67A3. I think this does have the potential of becoming its own residence. And based on that, I'm open for discussion, but I'm leaning toward denying this application.
Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an interesting one, but in the end, I thought there was a simple answer. I would like to say that I thought this was a brilliant design. The photos were of a very, very interesting structure, and the presentation made by the architects was as was pointed out, was very effective and very exact, and I thought he did a good job explaining what they hope to do. I'd like to start out by saying I don't think we're extending a nonconformity. When they built it in 2010, it was legal to do, and so there wasn't anything that was ever done here up until now that was been asked for any special permissions. A lot of other structures have had that basement connection between various forms of various places on the building on a larger structure, and I've seen it, and it's effective. I thought that there was this whole argument of whether or not we could move and connect them, and that's really an architectural argument. That's something for the architects to think about. But I think in the end, a lot of this is the same argument that we just had with one of the previous decisions, and that is that what we're being asked here is to decide whether or not this residence can exist without access to a common entrance to the entire residence. That's what we just decided a few minutes ago on another application. That's what comes out here. And in a different application a few minutes ago, we said that if an architectural solution existed, then why don't we press when we're starting from scratch? We're not dealing with something where you're so restricted that you can't move forward. I understand from an aesthetic point of view that their answer, their presentation for the type of building they'd like to do is actually not only clever, but it's really exactly what should be done to steepen character with the rest of what's there. But in the end, we've just made two decisions tonight that I think are appropriate with this, and that is that common access is something that we just looked at in terms of another previous application, and that there is an architectural solution. It's not for us to tell the architect how to come up with it, but there is something that can be done. It may not be the precise location of what they plan on moving this, and they had reasons for wanting it to be where it is. But in the end, I think that the code, it was clear about what we're looking for here, and we discussed it at length about another one. I think that idea that the entire building has to be accessible becomes applicable to this new addition, even though it wasn't for the previous, because in 2010, it was not required. So I kind of reluctantly, but I'm going to deny this application.
Thank you.
Okay, and before you start, I'd like to correct my statement. It was legal in 2010.
You can't call it a nonconformity.
Well, we would be allowing it to create a nonconformity, not extending one, but creating one. So stay
Thank you.
corrected on that.
So I was more in the camp of Member McGivern on this. I think this, to me, this is more about uniqueness. And sometimes we do grant variances based on the unique character of the application. I think the ones we granted earlier are different than this. And I'm not persuaded by that fact. I think that the uniqueness here is the intent of I don't think you can draw the conclusion in my mind that this is going to be future use of maybe a rental property, which is the intent of the code. So I think this is clearly inconsistent with the original design of the project and an expansion of that design. It is very clever. But I don't think it's. I'm willing to move to approval. I think it does meet the variance standards in the sense that whether a grant of variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, I do not think that will be. I think the lot size is plenty big enough for this, and I think that the architecture will be consistent with what was done rather to do that. So I think it would fit into the character of the neighborhood in this case, whether a benefit sought by that applicant can be achieved by some method. I think you can argue that it can be done by some method, but I think the consistency of design is also important. I'm not saying that's a nexus. I'm saying that the nexus is more that I think it's clear that the design is not intended to be an additional residence or adjunct part of the house. Is it substantial? I say it's not a substantial. I think Terry brought up an interesting point to me on the basement thing and the expansion of the basement. I'm willing to give that some weight. But that was an interesting point. But I still don't think it's a substantial. I don't think it'll have an adverse effect on the environmental conditions or the neighborhood. Is it self-created? Yeah, I think most applications, in my opinion, are self-created. I think the previous one that you said was not. It's a very rare occasion. The one is not self-created. So based on that, I'm willing to approve the application, but it looks like there's going to be a denial on it. Okay, counsel?
Everybody go? Okay.
Counsel, you good?
Yes, all good.
All right, thank you.
But can I add one thing?
Sure.
Sorry. When I reviewed this, I mean, you just went through the standards for a variance, but what we're being asked is to look at the standards for 255-1167. With this having the potential to
I
be,
get it.
For the
I get it.
access.
to be a multi-family residence. That was all I was thinking of through this whole deliberation in my own head.
No, I don't disagree
what I
with
mean?
with the mindset.
But I'm just saying that the other variance standards that you were looking at, and then based on things we just decided tonight, we're looking at whether it's allowed there to be no interior access to the proposed addition from a
Mhm.
common entrance. So that was it for me. That was
Yeah.
my
I
zoom
appreciate
in,
that.
in terms of where, just
And
to
the
be
base-
clear in the record
And the
where I'm coming
basement
from.
allowing disproportionate use and intensity.
All right, thank you. More to go, I think. Next, we have Mark Obenhouse at 1034 Springs Fireplace Road in Springs. Suffolk tax map number 300-39-14-19.1. The size and location is 257,603 square foot at 1034 Springs Fireplace Road in Springs. And the description is to construct 826 foot of deer fencing and driveway gates on a property containing tidal wetlands, with a portion of the fencing to be constructed within wetland setbacks. A natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and a variance of 87 feet pursuant to 255-430 of the East Hampton Town Code to construct a deer fence 13 feet from the wetland where 100 foot is required. The zoning district is A5 Residence X, flood zone, 0.2% annual chance flood hazard zone, AE6, AE7, and DE8. So when the secret class is type 2, and this is in Member Savary's district, so Denise.
So this public hearing was held on April 25th. The latest survey that I'm aware of is April 10th, 2022. This is in a harbor protection overlay district, which was implemented to maintain and improve surface water quality in harbors and creeks, maintain and improve wildlife habitat, and help prevent entry of stormwater runoff into the town creeks. The tidal marsh systems of Accabonac are one of the major undeveloped wetland ecosystems on Long Island. A wide variety of animals and plants inhabit this ecosystem, and this entire property is within the Accabonac Harbor Scenic Area of statewide significance. Lori Wiltshire of Land Planning Services spoke on behalf of the application, and Mr. Obenhouse appeared as well. And during his testimony, I asked if any thought had been given to moving the fence and gate south to make a better setback, since he was literally going right to the limit of the lot allowance, right to the edge of wetlands. And the response seemed to indicate the design was based on the location of his driveway. So this really, in my mind, is not the minimum variance necessary. And there appears to be, based on the size of the property, reasonable alternative designs that would be more in keeping with the NRSP and variance standards. This is a huge variance, a request of 87 feet, along with a request for a natural resource special permit. These decisions run with the land, and this decision would set a template for the future. It would also impede the movement of animal species other than deer. This area has got fox, and they've got bunnies, other wildlife, birds everywhere, which rely on the wetland habitat. I think that simple modifications could be made to meet a better setback and be more in compliance with code standards. Now, this is what I want to discuss with the board as well. I want to address my concerns about the 8-foot gate and the 8-foot fence. Since the front yard of this property is Accabonac, the rear yard is where Mr. Obenhouse wants to erect an 8-foot fence and 2 gates. Maybe this is a question for council. I don't know if we can override the jurisdiction of the Architectural Review Board. I don't know if he should have gone to them for approval before us.
He's still gonna have to go to them.
I know, but
Right.
I don't know if I'm willing to grant that based on the fact that he still has to go there. So there also was, because he probably should have gone to them first, anything over 6 feet is what requires ARB approval in the rear yard. I mean, he's entitled to 6 feet. There also was no talk of a revegetation plan in the area the applicant wants to fence. I think if approved, a revegetation plan should be implemented. You know, I don't think this is the minimum variance necessary. There's certainly, as I brought out at the meeting, the public hearing, there were other options which he just wasn't willing to explore. I don't think this meets the standard for variance or a special permit. It's a very, very large variance request, so I am denying this application.
Thank you. Sherry?
Okay, well, I agree with Member Savarese. Didn't really, as far as the ARB, we know we would have to go to the ARB regardless. But I too feel that this is an 87-foot variance. And I think it's an incredibly large variance. I don't know that I think that it would change the character of the neighborhood at this point in time. I don't know what the rest of the neighborhood looks like or if there are other deer fences. However, I'm apprehensive that there will be other similar applications coming in. So I think there are alternatives. I think he could also move this south and, you know, there's a huge amount of space that he could certainly improve greatly on the setback and still have some fencing and still let the area naturalize. He talked about naturalizing it as opposed to revegetating it. But, you know, I like flora and fauna. But as the planner is the other wildlife that was mentioned, you know, the planner brought up box turtles, spotted turtles, possibly terrapins. So there are other terrestrial species. And I think that this is not the minimum variance. And I think, well, is it self-created? I guess it is. I don't know who else would have created it. Can't blame the deer. But, you know, so I too am denying this variance.
Thank you. Ed?
No. I took a little different point of view on this. This is in a scenic area of statewide significance, so the visual effect of the fence is important. It was brought up by the chair at the meeting. What would that fence do on the opposite side, which is the road side of the house? Would it have any effect from the road? We have that scenic area has to be considered in any decision we make. The area that was shown to us that he hopes to enclose was a heavily browsed area where we saw that there was no understory under some mature hardwoods, and that's typical of areas where deer get an opportunity to browse on things that they like, and they can then nub down to near nothing. His comment was, as was mentioned by Member Berger, that he'd hoped to see it naturalized, that if this fence went there, we would see an area where it would naturalize on its own. So there was no planting plan by him in that area. As far as it being an 87-foot variance, that isn't an enormous variance asked for, but the fence is to be placed on the inside of an existing roadway that runs right along the wetland. So it wouldn't be as if this fence is being pushed out into an area that it is the nearest thing to the wetland. The nearest thing to the wetland here is this driveway that comes into the place. He said that they proposed that 24% of the property would be enclosed by this, leaving 76% of the property open. When the question was raised by Member Berger, what about deer browsing? We're going to restrict it greatly. Well, there seems to be enough area there. There's a balance between restricting these small animals and then regenerating the understory. Certainly concern for herps, the potential turtles that might come and lay eggs on land. And are we restricting that? That's a consideration, one I would consider. But I think generating the understory also, to me, is a very potential positive. It does, there's a whole cycle of life that depends on the understory and the hardwood forest. So I was not leaning towards denying this application. And my reasons were that I thought that although it's a large ask in terms of variance, the driveway mitigates that to a certain amount. And that the 8-foot fence bothers me. That'll go in front of 8 foot. I mean, it may bother me because if it's going to be something that could be a scenic problem, it'll go in front of the ARB. But other than that, I am willing, despite its size, the 24% of the land, I am willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Joan?
Yeah, the size of the fence definitely bothered me, but I think for the reasons that Ed outlined, that the fence follows a pre-existing sort of roadway, if you will. And also I found Mr. Obenhaus quite persuasive on the fact that the deer, I mean, we saw it, the deer denuded the woods, and that by enclosing it, he could revive the understory. And also, Roy asked the question about, will it impact the scenic vista? And it's in the front, it's all in the front yard, so you're not going to see it from the harbor. So because of those qualifications, that it follows a pre-existing roadway and the driveway, I'm willing to approve it. And also because it won't impact the scenic vista. And there were some qualifications in the TAM about how to put the fence in to prevent further damage that I'd like noted in the opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I neglected to say that the other thing is these variances run in perpetuity. So
Yeah,
that was
they
another
do.
factor in my decision.
So I have I'm also in the camp of approving this with a modification. So I think that the fencing along the driveway is at the most reasonable location proposed due to the fact that it is an undisturbed area, and we're bringing it in further away from the wetlands is cutting through that uncleared area, which I think would disturb that. So I think it is reasonable. But what I think is not, and I would like to make a modification suggestion to see if you would agree with this, is that I'm bothered with the location of the gate and the fence to the seaward side of that. And that's where I'm bothered mostly with this application. I'd like to propose the gate. I'd like to condition the approval on the gate and the remaining fence following the limit of the clearing that's on the survey. If he move the gate over to the limit of the clearing here and follow this limit of clearing, I think that it would improve this application from an environmental standpoint.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that's a good idea.
I have no problem with that in terms of my agreement. I think it's a solid suggestion.
Yeah.
So you're essentially saying like
Right?
something like,
Yep, exactly. And then the fence just hits where it intersects the driveway. That's where the gate goes.
or just here,
Yeah.
and then the gate would come across.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. I'm sure that doesn't.
Doesn't change my mind.
Okay.
No. No. No.
Council, are you good on that?
Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Finally, we have Michael Algello at 19 Fenwick Road in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-19-8, 21 and 22.1. The size and location is 43,535 square feet at 19 Fenwick Road and 13 Fairway Avenue in Montauk Beach, Development Corp., map number 1014 Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-19-8-21 and 22.1. The description is to merge two adjoining properties and allow a 160 square foot shed, fish pond, stone wall, slate walkway and patio, slate pool patio, southeast patio, driveway gate, and pergola to remain all within the town's jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, and 5 variances are required. 4 variances from 255-430. Minimum wetland setbacks of 45 feet, 40 feet, 41 feet, and 36 feet, and 21 feet are required to allow an existing stone wall, 56-foot driveway gate, 60 feet, fish pond, 59 feet, shed, 65 feet, and slate walkway with pool patio, 79 feet, where a 100-foot setback is required, and 1 variance from 255-1110 dimensional regulations of 4 feet is required to allow an existing pergola to remain 6 foot from the southern property lot line, where 10 foot is required. Any other relief is necessary from East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Who did this?
I did.
Okay, Ed, you want to take us?
Yeah, thank you. The hearing for Jello was held on April 25th, 2023. The survey we were working from, the most recent survey, was from June 16th to 2022. The applicant was represented by Andy Hammer. This property has a long history in front of the East Hampton Building Department and East Hampton Town ZBA. NRSPs have been granted 1993 and 1999, and then that was before the current ownership. These allowed for the construction of the house and then later the pool that are situated on lot 21 that is accessed from Fairview Avenue. An NRSP and variances were granted to the current ownership in 2007 that allowed for a fish pond, a stone wall, and a pergola, but the variance required for an existing shed and walkway were denied at that time. In 2007, an NRSP and variances were granted to allow the construction of a 1,760 square foot residence, 434 square foot brick patio, and a sanitary system on lot 22.1, which has access from Fenwick Road. In 2009, an application was made to merge the lots 21 and 22.1 and to allow the shed and the walkway that were denied in 2007 to remain on lot 21. That application was later withdrawn. In 2015, an NRSP and variances were granted to allow the merging of lots 21, 20, and 22.1, and to allow for additional new construction to take place and to allow for a number of existing features to remain. This application significantly approved the previous, this application significantly was approved, and the previously denied shed and walkway were also approved. The application before us now seeks to merge lots 21 and 22.1 and will allow for the approvals granted in the 2015 determination to be incorporated in this decision, along with the shed that was not previously approved. The applicant has chosen to void the 2007 decision concerning lot 22.1, and the 2015 decision, which allowed for an additional garage and pool house to be built on lot 22.1. Therefore, if approved, this would be the only determination relative to these two properties. Planning Department has pointed out areas of particular concern relative to this application. The new shed constructed on lot 22.1, which is 120 feet from wetlands, is not allowed to have plumbing, and it doesn't appear that it's clear that it has not been installed at this time. Previous approvals on these lots have required the establishment of scenic easements adjacent to the wetlands. These easements will have to be respected if this application is to move forward and be approved, and the proper revegetation of those easements will have to be completed to the satisfaction of the environmental planners. Additionally, a significant bluestone driveway has been installed on lot 22.1 and was required, and as was required in the now void approval of 2015, any new driveway surface should consist of clear quartz gravel. The planning department recommends the replacement of the bluestone with quartz to protect the deteriorating sediment from the bluestone from entering the adjoining wetlands. This application seeks to eliminate the need for 4 variances by merging lots 21 and 22.1 located on Fairview Avenue and Fenwick Road respectively. A 5th variance is required to allow a driveway gate on lot 22.1 to remain. In doing so, the applicant relinquishes the ability to construct a second residence, a brick patio, and a sanitary system on lot 22.1. As a board, we are asked whether approving the 5 variants requested is mitigated sufficiently by the merging of the 2 lots. I think that it is. I agree, however, that the bluestone driveway covering 22.1 should be replaced with clean quartz gravel, and that the easement required by the earlier ZBA determinations be respected, and that all revegetation of those areas be installed in a manner that meets the approval of our environmental planners. So in reference to NRSP standards 255-5-51D and 255-4-12, I feel that an adequate effort has been made to preserve and protect our natural resources, given the fact that a future house cannot be built on the lot on Fenwick Road. One more point here. And that under variance standards 255-8-50, that the granting of the variances here will not cause an undesirable effect on the neighborhood. Individually, each of these was within a large ask on the single lot of the single lot on Fairview Avenue. But as the melded lots come together, I'd just like to say that it's not often that we have an opportunity to have a parcel removed for the potential for a parcel to be developed and removed in front of us. We would ask for very many of these sensitive sites to be purchased by the town if possible. Here's a case where by melding these lots, we eliminate the potential for a house to go on what is a sensitive lot, the one on Fenwick. So, Mr. Chairman, under these conditions stated, I'm willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Member Berger?
Okay. Generally, I too am looking to approve this project overall. However, there's a couple of things I want to bring up. The survey does indicate that there will be some fencing that's moved outside of the scenic easement. And there's a portion up here on lot 22.1 where it says the drive fence and gate to be removed from the scenic easement. And the applicant, the agent for the applicant stated that the applicant does not want to do that, and offered as an alternative, I guess, on the applicant's part, that they will just cut the scenic easement around that. However, that still should be 10 feet away from the scenic easement. So do gates count?
Fences do not.
What about gates?
I don't know. It's pretty much a fence.
So I don't know how we want to handle that. And the fencing was stated by the agent that the fence is 6 feet. I was concerned that they were making it higher. And the re-veg plan, there is no re-veg plan that has been offered, but it was clear by the planner that due to the history on this project, that this application, that the re-veg should be done in a very quick fashion. I think they suggested a year, that the re-veg get done within a year. The applicant's agent was requesting more like 18 months for that to happen. But I agree with the planner, since with all the history that's on this already, that we should limit that re-veg to be done within the year. And we just have to decide on the scenic easement, and this gate will allow it to cut in slightly more and leave the gate as it is, or
Can I throw food for thought on that suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
I think the gate being an existing structure, if it needs to meet the 10-foot setback, the applicant come back to us and say, okay, I'm moving the easement to meet that 10-foot setback, and we'd be giving up a little bit, right? So-
Yeah, I know.
So I
know.
think this is the better of evils, if you will. We're getting more easement up to the gate. It's a proposed easement, so we
But
have
we
the
can't-
ability to approve it as is. All future structures need to meet that setback. I
Well,
think.
it was a gate though on a lot that was unimproved, so was it
Yeah.
legal?
Yeah, you have a point.
Um,
That's a point.
But I too think, considering everything that was done, I do think it's a big benefit also that we, we won't be having the intensity of use of having a second residence and all the structures associated with typical residence on the second lot also. And I do think with the scenic easement and the revegetation and the change in the driveway from the bluestone, that it will meet the natural resources special permit standards. And the variances were not incredibly large, but all these structures are existing. So I do want us to make it clear on the determination, though, if this is approved, that I'd like a statement to the effect that the previous determinations are null and void. I know they expired and there was no extension of time, but that doesn't make me that comfortable. I don't know if we can make a statement to that effect.
That's a council question, I think.
Yeah, council?
He's muted.
It was stated at the
Yeah,
hearing.
sorry. Yeah, I can craft some language in there just stating that it's the board's opinion that they're null and void at this time. I mean, technically,
Not an opinion, it's fact.
well, with the building of the house has to be null and void because they're giving up the right to build. So they wouldn't have the ability to do that anymore. I mean, I would imagine we're gonna do a CNR on this that's gonna have something to that extent that they're not gonna build on the property, so.
Well, I don't know that we need a CNR, it's gonna be a merged lot. They can only have one residence on it.
Oh, they're merging them, that's right. they're merging.
Previous ones expired.
Yeah, they're both expired,
They're both
and there was
expired.
never any extensions on them. So,
And the fact that it's an easement is eliminating the fact that there could be a building on it.
exactly, so they're kind of void, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Denise?
I agree with my fellow board members. Obviously, the merging of two lots is a benefit. I do believe any revegetation we agree to, I think we need to keep a tight rein on this property based on their past activity or lack of activity. The revegetation should probably be done within a year. The driveway change to bluestone, I'm in agreement with, and a scenic easement. I think this does meet the standards for 255, 551, and 255, 850. I know I'm not going to get anywhere with this, but I am going to get it on record that even with the proposed revegetation, there's still going to be over 5,000 square feet cleared. I mean, the clearing allowed is 19,000, and the existing is 28,000. So I don't know if we can do anything about that, but it's a concern because I don't think it's in keeping with the code. But I am in favor of this application.
Thank you. Joan?
I'm in favor of the application with the qualification that the revegetation or the vegetation of the scenic easements be implemented within the year, as well as changing the driveway over to pervious courts, and the other conditions that are set forth in the TAM. And I don't want to repeat what everyone said because it's getting late.
Thank you, Joan, and I agree. I have nothing else to add. Well said, guys. Thank
There's
you.
a large lot easement that's recommended on this too.
Yeah, large lot easement. Well, that's,
Yeah,
And all mitigation completed within 1 year, so 1 year will be the timeframe. Okay,
Yeah, that's in the TAM condition.
right.
All right, we have a couple of other decisions tonight. One is Stephanie Bauer at 65 Wyandanch Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk, Tax map number 300-176-6-2. If you remember, we just had this hearing. There's a request to extend the written record for an additional 4 weeks until May 30th, 2023, to submit a revised survey. Joan, would you like to make a motion for that?
I have
Or
to
we can
pull
do it
up.
from here.
Why don't you do it from there? Because otherwise I have to find the agenda,
All right, you want us to do it?
if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So I'll make a motion to allow the written record to be open for additional 4 weeks until May 30th, 2023 for Stephanie Bauer, 65 Wyandanch Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax map number 300-176-6-2.
I'll second it.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. Next, we have 404 Old Montauk Highway LLC at 404 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk Tax map number 300-22-1-4, and the request to extend the written record for an additional 4 weeks until May 30th, 2023 to submit revised plans. Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Is there any clarity needed in the fact that it's not 4 weeks between now and May 30th?
Well, let's just make well, I would make the motion to May 30th. That's the main part of the request,
Okay.
I think.
Fine. Then in the matter of 404 Old Montauk Highway LLC, 404 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-22-1-4. I'd like to make a motion to extend the written record for an additional 4 weeks until May 30th, 2023.
Second.
Well, concur, but do you want to put the 4 weeks in there?
That's not 4 weeks.
Right, but you said 4 weeks until May 30th.
Oh,
The request probably came in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we might have had the
But I
request
thought
for a
you
week
told me
already.
just hold it to May 30th.
they requested till May 30th. So that's, yeah, it's May 30th. Okay.
Okay,
I concur.
I concur.
Thank
May
you.
30th. Okay.
Okay, we have the
and
minutes of
I would like to
approval.
make a motion,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, to approve the draft minutes for May 2nd, 2023 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Resolutions, we have Christine Ryder at 11 Stevens Road, Montauk, Suffolk Tax map number 300-68-7-4. Council?
Both of these resolutions tonight are applications they were without public hearing, so they're variance requests without public hearing. Based on that, Christine Ryder's application was to allow a pool cover and pool deck to remain 1.3 feet from side yard line setbacks where 20 feet is required. So they were requesting the one variance. The board found that the pool cover was built to the same specs as in the same location as the original building permit indicated with a slight variance. The variance will not create a detriment to any nearby properties. The pool cover sits on top of the pool, does not encroach on any neighboring properties, and the property complies with total lot coverage. The deck was not built over any utilities and which could have an effect on the neighborhood. The variance sought for this property is 1.3 feet and would reduce the setback by 6.5%. This is the minimum necessary and adequate to alleviate the difficulty of the applicant. As such, the majority of the board voted in favor of the application, and Member McGovern abstained technically because we lost her during that hearing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Oh, do you want to do it? You want me to? It's
I don't
Montauk.
have the-
Okay, I'll
I
do
don't
it.
have it on here.
Then in the case of Christine Ryder of 11 Stevens Road, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-68-7-4, I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
All right.
Joan,
Joan, you concur?
you concur?
Oh, yes, I concur, even though I abstain.
Oh.
Next, we have James A. Cooper
she abstained,
Jr.
okay.
at 29 19th Street in Spring, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-82-2-6.3.
So just for a clarification purpose, the determination is written as Samantha Cooper. That's actually what is on the application submitted by the applicant. So the determination will be written in Samantha Cooper, not James Cooper. This was to allow a pool patio to remain 18.5 feet from the side yard line setback, where 20 feet is required. Again, this was a variance request without a hearing. It was presented to us. It was presented to the board. The structures were built to the same specs and the same location as the original building permit indicated, with the slight variance, and the variance will not create a detriment to any nearby properties. The property to the rear of the subject parcel is vacant, which is a direct line of the extended patio. The applicant is seeking a 1.5-foot variance, which is the minimum necessary, and the variance request is about 7.5%, which does not affect any of the natural resources on the subject property. As such, the majority of the board found in favor of this application, with member Savarese this time abstaining.
Thank you.
No, I had to abstain.
Oh, you abstain. Okay, I'll make a motion. That's right, I remember. So therefore I make a motion in the applicant of James A. Cooper Jr. at 29 19th Street in Spring, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-82-2-6.3 to approve the application as written.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. Next, Vice Chair.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals work session for May 9th, 2023 at 8:50 PM.
Second.
I concur.
Concur.
Thank you.